I don't hear you, Shooter.
Welcome to We. The Thunder. We got Thomas Schooley. We'll try this again. School's back in, and myself. No guest tonight, but I guess I could tell you to be here next week, next Wednesday, where we should have Chris Dingman on the show. He was supposed to come on last month, and I got the flu, so he'll be back next week, it sounds like. So stay tuned for what time that's going to start. We had a couple of hockey games. We had the Four Nations tournament, which we went live for. I went live for, I guess, all the USA games except for one. And we were live together at Dignitary Cafe for the USA's overtime loss to Canada. But I guess we can kick it off with that tournament and kind of end it off. You know, the first, maybe only ever Four Nations tournament, Thomas Schooley. Canada wins it in overtime over U.S. What are your final thoughts? Are you ready to close the book on the Four Nations?
This was really good. I mean, I can't wait to see the Worlds in 2 years and get back to that. It really brought a lot of eyes to the game of hockey. We talked about it when we did that last podcast there at Dignitary Cafe that, you know, you had different sports stars tweeting out that they were going to watch it and that they had friends and family asking. Tonight, I went to a live taping of the block party with Darren Radish, was Greg Wolf and Braden Coburn's guest, and he talked about his friends were texting him and saying, "Where can we watch this?" So it got a lot of eyes on the game, a lot of hype on the games. If you're anywhere near TikTok, there was several different people, and it was like usually middle-aged to older ladies being like, "What is this game?" And it all started with that first U.S. Canada game with the fights, the 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. That was what a lot of people were talking about. And then the championship game did not disappoint. Man, if you were a U.S. fan like we were, it was a disappointing outcome, but that was a game you wanted to see. And an ending, it would have been nice. The U.S. would have won in overtime, but that's the kind of game you want in a championship game when you're showcasing this. And I think the NHL really did a good job putting this together.
Yeah, massive success, right? We didn't really know what to expect. We didn't know if the players were going to play hard. They did. A lot of players got injured. It was way more physical than we thought it would be. We didn't think there would be fights. We saw 3 in a row in that game you mentioned with USA Canada Part 1. And I think the biggest eye opener for the NHL was the massive ratings that some of these games got here in America. So, I wonder if they regret at all announcing kind of the every other year rotation that they'll have, saying that they'll be in the Olympics and then the World Cup of Hockey every 2 years. I wonder if they were like, oh, maybe we announced that too early. Maybe we should try to do something every year. I don't know if you can really pull that off and still have, NHL seasons like they did this year. But it's good for the game with people watching and people actually talking about hockey. I mean, there was some folks at Dignitary that had not, ever watched hockey before. And, they were wondering what the heck we were all doing there, hooting and hollering for the USA. It was fun. I really liked it. Congrats to Canada. I didn't want Canada to win, but I guess that's the silver lining for us Bolts fans is it's kind of like Team Lightning North won from the top down. So it's good to see all those players win and come back still playing pretty well these last 2 games. Brandon Hagel is someone that I think the NHL and fans are starting to get to know. And again, last night with another really great goal. the last 2 games in a row, and Lightning are on what, a 6-game winning streak now, going back to before the break. And these 2 games this week, last night with the Canucks coming, or not Canucks, the Oilers coming into town, and McDavid 4-1 win, and then Seattle, not as good of a team, coming into town right after on Sunday, right after the Four Nations, and another big 4-1 win. And I felt the difference in those 2 games were the first game against Seattle. I thought the Lightning got outskated that game, to be honest with you, and Bassey kind of stood on his head, and the offense did what this offense usually does with Hagel getting on the board. You knew Cooch was going to get on the board after having a couple weeks off, but found the way to win that game, and pretty convincingly at the end. And then I definitely thought that they outplayed or I keep wanting to say Vancouver for some reason, Edmonton. That I think they completely outplayed him. They shut down McDavid as much as you could by just kind of pushing him and trying to keep him outside as long as you could. And I thought our defense was a huge difference in that game. Our defense is definitely better than the Oilers' defense. I don't know if you picked
Yeah,
that.
Coburn actually talked about that tonight, and I believe Greg Wolf said this will air next Wednesday. And Coburn said that one of his scout buddies last night texted him after the game and said that defense and this team is great and scary. So, and you came out of that Four Nations, and you had someone like Vassy, someone like Kucherov, who, because of political reasons, wasn't able to play in this tournament. You had Chernak, who all three of those all likelihoods going to be making the Olympic teams for their countries or some kind of federation. And you worried whether they were going to be cold. We've seen before when they do these breaks for the All-Star break, when they come back, are they hot? Are they cold? Did the time away affect them? And Vassy just seemed to get better. And Kucherov seems like he's going to have that little chip on his shoulder. And, they're just, it's just amazing to see this team. I believe it's in the last 8, they're 7-0-1. They've gotten 8 consecutive games with points. So right now, third in their division, only a couple of points behind Toronto for first place. Back in January, you would not have been thinking this was going to happen.
It's crazy because the Lightning have only lost 1 game in overtime in February. I know it's a shortened month, right? We had the break, but if you look at the calendar, we've got 1 game left tomorrow versus Calgary here, and we might end up with only 1 overtime loss in a shortened February. But looking back to go listen to our show at the end of January. Things were not looking good. We couldn't score goals. Defense wasn't playing great. Vassy was letting up some weak goals. And it seems like I don't know. You think anything's? Have you noticed anything change coaching wise or strategy wise?
No, it seems like they're still going with the same thing. And listening to the interviews after each game, listening to the interview at the block party today, listening to Vassy's block party interview last week, which was released today, it seems like Cooper is not that coach that even if they're doing bad, he's going to really give you hell. I mean, we've heard some stories where he's been upset and stuff like that. But even today, Radish said that, there's been times he's had bad game and he looks over his shoulder because he sees a video and he's waiting for it to be a play of his. But they're just not like that. And they seem to be having fun. I asked Coburn today after the taping, I said, are players this time of the year scared of trade? Because we've also seen where that has happened, where, the players been mentioning trades and their starts to lack. And so you wonder if some of these players start getting um, trade in their head. And Coburn said that players like Gensel, he's not going to be traded, so he's got no care in the world. But then someone like Radish, you think, okay, he's a right shot. He's been doing pretty good numbers. Is that somebody you're going to be able to improve on? Probably not. That's probably something the Lightning needs to do. So he probably feels pretty secure in his position. He said, but surely, he got traded. We talked about his trade with Radko Gudis when Radko was injured. Is 1 o'clock in the morning. He said his wife woke up to feed their oldest child, Blair, and went and woke him up and said, "You have 56 missed calls. I think you need to
Damn.
get up." And he said because he was on the East Coast in Philadelphia, so he was already asleep. West Coast had found out about it, and everybody was calling him from the West Coast, and he said he was asleep and didn't. And so he found out 1 o'clock in the morning about this trade, 2 o'clock in the morning. So he says, some of those players might be thinking about that. And that was something I thought about today. My question got picked to ask that Darren got to play with his brother Taylor on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then Taylor got traded for Brendan Hagel. And I think you see everywhere how everybody's saying that was one of the best trades that JBB's ever made. You've seen where the contract extension is might go down as one of the best contract extensions we've had in a long time. Do you think there's any animosity there with Darren Radish? And I want to know the people. I see Stephanie talking, Serena talking. Do you think there's any animosity there with Darren, with knowing Hagel is there because his brother got traded? Or do you just think that he's like, no, this has bettered our team? Because him and his brother are very close. His brother was his best man at his wedding. Like, my question was, do you still follow him now? And he says yes. He follows him in Washington. He knows Saturday that they're playing against each other on Saturday. He said he still wants to check them into the boards, but they are very, very close. When you get to see this release next week, you get to hear my brother, my brother, my brother at least 10 different times during this interview. So do you think there's any animosity there with Hagel, or do you just think, it's part of the game?
Um, I mean, probably deep down inside, right? He's probably thinking, man, I could be playing in the NHL, regular minutes with my brother. But most players, when you ask them, they're going to give you the business. Well, that's the business side of it, Schooley. You don't understand that side of it. Okay, this ain't Little Caesars. Okay, you don't trade
You
your
just
best.
heard that from Brody and Matthew Kachuk. This was the first time they've ever played together. First time, and it meant a lot to them to play together for Team USA
And
and
it showed.
just be able to play together. Yeah, and so, you gotta imagine that was something that Darren and Taylor had always dreamed of. I believe when I was reading something on Darren Radish, it said when he went to one of his teams, he demanded that they get his brother too. And they added Taylor to the team. So they have been very close. So I got to imagine somewhere in there, he's probably like, damn, you're lucky you're so good because we gave away my brother for you.
Yeah, I don't think you can be too mad at Hagel, who's become one of the best players on the team. He's I won't go as far to say he's carrying the team, but I mean offensively, he's up right up there with Kucherov as far as getting things done. Now, when I say it's business, Thomas Schooley, I mean what what are we talking about here with the Little Caesars guy?
That
What
was me.
what happens now? Do you get upset employees when you're like, man, I really wanted to be the little Caesar today, and Thomas Schooley's always hogging the costume for his photo ops.
We signed a contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Bradenton Marauders to be in their spring training facility over in Bradenton at Lemcom Park. And so that was me today on our third Pirates game, walking around. That was me taking a break after walking around because those things do not have air conditioning in them.
No, it doesn't look like it. It was a warm one today. All right, well, um, we had to show that because I got a kick out of that. But no, I don't think there's too much animosity. Stephanie had a pretty good point here about, maybe the difference between January and February was we played so many dank games in January, and that seemed to really slow the team down. So another grind here in March in a couple days when we get 15 games in 29 days. And they've got to win these games. They've got to stay above 500 if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. But right now, looking good, looking like one of the better teams in the league. The trade deadline is pretty much here. That's the kind of weird thing with this Four Nations happening when it happened is the trade deadline's next Friday, and the Bolts made a trade today. You've seen them do this a couple times this season now, swapping minor leaguers. So Ylonen goes to Nashville for Anthony Angelo. Ylonen was somebody, wasn't it Eric who was talking to us about him before the season as maybe a guy that will stick with the team?
I think so. And it was funny because he just got called up last week, right after the Four Nations ended, and then got sent right back down. So it was
I don't
weird
think he
that
thought that was funny.
no, probably not.
So, I don't know. Kind of weird move because you're trading for Angelo, who's 28, a little bit older. Ylonen is 25, and you're getting a little bit of size though. So you're getting a 6'4", 228-pound forward, who's basically a career AHLer. So I don't know if they have any plans to give this guy a shot at like a fourth line. Maybe he's just a big body that can come in and hit, and they hope maybe score a couple goals. But the watch is on to see if they let this guy play any games in the NHL compared to who he was traded for. He has not played very many games at all. Ylonen was over 100 games, and Angelo's at like 20, 30 NHL games, I think.
Yeah, whenever you see these minor league ones, you think that one of those two teams are setting up for some kind of trade that's going to include some of these minor leaguers, especially because there was no drafts picks involved in any of this, so neither one really picked anything up. So usually you're trying to set up some kind of package deal for something. And I see this question from Stephanie over here. Do you think they could trade Pervix, Chafee, or Gonsalves? Um, the thing is that Gonsalves already wasn't he on waivers and nobody picked him up. So I think if he's going anywhere, it's going to have to be a package deal. You're going to see a lot of trades coming down. And I think some big names, because there's going to be some teams that are really going to be selling at this trade deadline. And then there's so many they're bunched at the top that I think are going to really be trying to buy. I've seen already where they think Carlson's done in Pittsburgh, that he's probably going to be gone before the deadline.
Yeah, and if they trade Carlson, they're going to look to move some other guys too and go into more of a full rebuild. I don't know if they'll trade Sidney Crosby, but that would
No.
make some people pretty upset. But I think a lot of the other players up there will be on the board. I don't know if the Lightning are really going to do anything, knowing kind of what they have, being relatively healthy. Mosier coming back, like Stephanie says, has helped tremendously. He's been quiet, but you don't really want to be talking too much about your defenseman, or else it's usually a bad thing. Um, Last night he had a little less minutes. I think he was like 16, 17 minutes. And then the first night, Sunday, is his debut. He was over 20 minutes. So maybe they use that as their trade deadline move. They got a player back and healthy. But it does feel like if they were going to move someone, they've got a little bit of depth on defense. And defense is always kind of in short demand with most teams, unlike forwards. So I think if they do move anyone, maybe Perbix could be the guy, knowing that they've got some extra depth that can step in and play defense. Or do they want to keep that, knowing that you still got 20 something games left or something like that, and then you still got a whole playoff. Hopefully, you're going to make a deep run in, and to think that your defenders are all going to stay healthy during that is kind of crazy.
Well, last night was kind of interesting with Coop going 7D and Perbix and Atkinson out.
Yeah, I don't mind the 7D with the players on this team, especially knowing that we kind of have a hole in that bottom six. But that's got to be the move if they make a move. Is bottom six. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't want them to overspend on a bottom six forward, and I think that it's going to be really competitive because you got way more teams trying to get better going into the playoffs versus teams that are out of it. Like there's what, really like a handful of teams that are out of it, if that.
Yeah, but I think some teams are not even going to, are basically considering themselves. I mean, you basically have Seattle who has said that
Yeah.
they're all up for sale. You have Pittsburgh who's all up for sale. I mean, you had Columbus who I would have thought months ago everybody would have been on fire sale there, but I mean, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Islanders, Philly, Montreal's dropped a lot. And then San Jose, Chicago, Nashville.
It's the bottom three in the whole league are Nashville, Chicago, and San Jose. San Jose has only got 38 points in 59 games.
Yeah.
So those, I mean, maybe Nashville starts unloading some of these players. That might be a team that really gets a lot of their players picked up. I think it's a little too soon to let go of Stamkos, but you never really know what could happen. But I think that's pretty doubtful. But yeah, we will find out soon because again, that trade deadline is coming up fast. It's next Friday. I want to say it's what, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 Eastern.
Yeah.
Yep, 3 p.m. Eastern, March 7th. So we're going to start to see these trades start rolling in here pretty soon. And yeah, the rumor is Stephanie's right. Brock Besser. I don't know how that works, but I'd take him if they could figure it out. So I don't know. I really don't want to see him overspend, but we know the history of JBB, and I don't think since he's been in charge, has there been one single time where he really hasn't made a significant move at the trade deadline?
No.
No. So
No, and it's usually two people, not just one.
yeah, he goes in pairs.
Yeah. I think the only one I can think of that was just one was Jano during the trade, or was it off season? It was off season, right? McDonough was traded in the off season, or was
Yeah.
McDonough traded at trade deadline?
Off in the off season,
Okay.
right after the season
So
ended.
Alex Tuck. I don't think so. I don't think he would fit in with our lineup here. I just don't know where you would place him.
I think they need a grinder who is physical, who can score some goals on those bottom lines. Although I got Mikey last night. Man, I loved that goal. I should have the goals teed up because some of the goals last night were just awesome goals. But AC Mont, gets that prime opportunity, but I love what he did with the backhand there. That was awesome. I had to check out the replay and I was at the game, but I was like, how did that just happen? And then that wraparound goal by Hagel was McDavid like. That was McHagel. So the offense is finally coming around, and that's a good sign for this team because I think the defense has been playing good, and Vasi's been playing good too. I saw Stephanie post a picture earlier. I think it was just from Twitter with some of Vasi's stats during this streak. So 2.0 save is his goals against, and then save percentage was .937. Overall goals against 2.26 is fourth among goalies with at least 30 starts. So he's right back into that spot of being a top 5 goalie. That somehow nobody's talking about, which is fine. Because this is a team, whether they finish, second in the Atlantic or they get a wild card spot, do you think any team's really going to want to play the Lightning?
No, no. And I think this team, if you would have said a while ago, did anybody want to play this team in the playoffs? I would have been like, yeah, like it looks like it was going to be easy. But no, this team is really, really clicking at every single cylinder. They talked about tonight that breakaway that was 2-on-1 last night with two of the best players in the game right now, and Mac laid down for it and disrupted it and didn't even get a shot on goal. And and that's what you're getting, and that's what you got when we got McDonough back. That's something he's known for, laying that body out and just disrupting plays. And so it's great to see that. I know this Saturday they have the game in. Looking past tomorrow, I see Serena says someone like Blake Coleman returns to Amalie tomorrow. It's not his first time back, but Greg Wolf did tell us today they interviewed him today for the block party to air in 2 weeks. So he's going to have some kind of talk about when he played here. But then Saturday, they go for that road game, a 12:30 game in Washington. That's going to be a really telling time because it's a 12:30 game. So for the Bolts to have a 12:30 game, Washington, and then they end up playing the third in Sunrise, and I will be at that game. So,
oh, you're going down.
I am. I leave Sunday for Sunrise.
By the way, the Detroit game before the break, we broadcasted it, was a pretty good day game for the Bolts. So
it was.
I don't buy into the Bolts don't play well during the daytime hype. Because I think if you look it up, they probably have an all right record. Guess what we got this week that's been on pause since before the Four Nations?
Oh no, the challenge.
Oh yes. And who is the only person to ever win the challenge?
Sorry, your microphone's off again.
That was me. All right, let's do the challenge. We have 4 games before we are back here next Wednesday night. Reminder to make sure you follow at We the Thunder podcast. Actually, don't follow that. That's an intruder. Our account is We the Thunder Pod on X, or follow us on Facebook because we still want to lock in the time with our guy Chris Dingman, who's going to make an appearance next week. So we'll get his take. Dingman was traded, right? I guess that's a question for him. I don't really
Yes.
remember how it did. We trade for him? I guess we can ask him how he ended up here or if he was ever traded. You know what? You'll probably do the research first. But yeah, stay tuned so you can kind of see what time we are going to go on because I gave him some options since he's out there in Canada. All right. In the chat, I'm going to put the link out there. You've got really until puck drop tomorrow night to get your answers in. So we'll tweet out the link later. But we've got 4 questions, like I said, for 4 games this week. Tomorrow night, we play the Flames at Emily Arena. And the question for that one is, will Hagel score a goal versus the Flames on Thursday? Hagel's been on fire. I'm going to go with yes. Schooley?
I'm going to go with no.
You bastard. Who wins Saturday in DC? The Capitals, I believe, are at the top of the Eastern Conference, or right at the top,
They are.
and we're not. Are the Lightning going to beat the Capitals on Saturday?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to go with you on that one. Is there a fight in the Lightning versus Panthers game on Monday in Sunrise? No, it does not count if Thomas Schooley is fighting in the crowd with somebody. I'm going to go no. For some reason, maybe it's because Kachuk's out. I don't think they're going to fight.
I'm going to say yes.
All right, and then Lightning fly back to Tampa, and they play the Blue Jackets here on Tuesday next week. How many goals will the Lightning score versus the Blue Jackets on Tuesday? The question on the forum says, how many goals will the Lightning versus Blue Jackets on Tuesday? That meant how many goals will the Lightning score? I'm going to go with 5.
4.
All right. I hope you actually went and filled out the form because I did not keep track of your answers.
I did not.
Oh, all right. You'll have to do it later. All right. Looks like some folks are in there, and you have got until tomorrow, Thursday, puck drop 7:00 to fill that out. If you're listening to the podcast edition of this, which will be posted later tonight, make sure you give us a follow and try to come to the live show sometime. I'm curious what people thought of the games where we watched USA and we did the one with the Bolts in Detroit down at Dignitary too. I'm curious if people want us to keep doing some more of those because they're kind of fun.
It was. It was. Thomas said no, yes, yes, and 4. Thank you, Stephanie. There you go. Fill it out for me there, shooter. Uh, it was a good time. It was nice having Jay Retcher out there.
I thought you were going to say
Ian,
the stash.
well, Stash. What was her name? The taste.
Tracy came out forking around Tampa Bay.
Yep, Tracy, Kim,
Yep.
Debbie.
Debbie was in a
Uh,
rocking chair for 2 of the games.
yeah. So it was nice. People that came out and saw us. It was nice to people that were. It was fun for us that was interacting with us during that. And I mean, we had what was it like 200-300 people between Twitter and everything else for that final game watching, and it was good.
Yep. And we gave out the puck. Serena, see, good things happen when you come to the live shows. Serena knows because she won that Jake Gensel Four Nations puck thanks to the Hockey Collective, which, by the way, is HCKY. It's not completely spelled out. She just dropped the vowels. So we're gonna have the Hockey Collective on to talk to us in just a couple weeks, and what we're gonna do is give out another puck. So I think that's gonna be March 19th. She's going to come on. I'm really curious. I don't really know anything about the Hockey Collective or kind of what the purpose of it is. So we'll find out on in March when she jumps on with us, and on that show we'll give out a Victor Hedman signed puck. So you'll have to be here for the live show, but you also have to go on the Hockey Collective's Twitter, and you can go to We the Thunder Pod. The pinned post on there is the post that you've got to like, and you got to follow Hockey Collective. You got to follow us, and
Yeah, I don't know. I don't end up knowing how I ended up following her, but I followed her and ended up winning a Nick Perbix autograph, Hockey Fights Cancer pucks, which I collect a lot of the Hockey Fights Cancer pucks because of my mom. And so when I won that, and it just so happened we ended up talking a little bit more because in the mailing time she ended up getting sick. So it took her a little while to send it out. And so then we were talking, and I noticed she does a lot of the local players, and a lot of people donate pucks to her to be able to give away. And, um, she has a real job like we do, and she still
wait, you
tries
still
to do
work? Still working for
that.
this?
And so she does this as, and so I was like, you know what, you should come on the podcast sometime. And I just literally tagged you in it, the We the Thunder Pod, and I said, hey, I'll reach out to Shooter and have him, because you are definitely the more booking person. And she's like, he's already messaged me. I was like, oh, perfect. So whenever you're on the show, he'll tell me you're on the show. So it was nice seeing that finally announced for a date to be on.
Yeah, and at first I had tweeted that he who runs the page will be on, and I was kindly
Oh.
corrected. What a male chauvinist pig I am, Thomas. I'm just to see a hockey account and just assume it's a man. But I was kindly corrected there, so I'm excited to have another female on the show to join us. And there's got to be some sort of purpose behind all this, and very generous with donating these pucks. So stay tuned, and maybe you'll win a Victor Hedman puck. Here's a little Shooter trivia for you. Let's see if you know the answer to this. You should know it. I have one puck, one signed puck. Do you know who it's by?
Kudrow.
Eh,
I was thinking it was from your meet and
your
greet.
favorite player,
Oh, Stammer.
Stamkos. Yep. I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna give it to my great grandchildren if I live that long, and I'm gonna tell them the story about how an injured Steven Stamkos came back in the Stanley Cup Finals and played like 2 minutes and scored a goal. And that will be the day that they bring him into the Lightning Hall of Fame as well. I'm not sure how I'll be a great grandfather by then. They're gonna wait a little bit, apparently. But anyway, now I'm just going out on tangents. I don't really have much else. Besides this whole tournament that just happened, we're just kind of getting back into the swing of things. We've got Calgary tomorrow night. Any thoughts on Calgary coming to town?
7 in a row now.
That's your
Uh,
only thought? Is Calgary playing tonight? That's the big question.
no,
No.
they're already here in town. They interviewed Blake Coleman today.
Oh, that's right.
Uh, so no, they came in earlier today. I saw their buses out there. Um, It's
They're
going to be
right.
a good game.
Yeah,
I
they're right
don't
in the
think
thick
that.
of it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a good matchup. Um, I was looking ahead on the schedule, and Heather said, Stephanie said there's 15 games next month. The good thing is only two back-to-back games. The bad news is we're really hitting the meat and potato of the schedule. I mean, we have Washington to start the month off, then the Panthers, then Columbus, who's fighting for their playoff spot all of a sudden. Then you got Buffalo. We're gonna have two games, 2 weeks in a row against Boston. You got Carolina in there. You got two games of Philly in there. You got both games of Utah in there. Sergachev's return on the 27th. He'll be the last return of this season. You got Dallas in there, Vegas in there, Pittsburgh, and then the Islanders to finish the month out. So this month is going to be a really, really, really telling month for this team. And the good thing is we're going to have 3 games to talk about next Wednesday, or we might not talk about them, just talk about Dinger.
Well, we got four
Because
games. Got 4 games to talk about.
oh yeah, the game tomorrow night.
Got it back to
Uh,
back Monday, Tuesday next week.
yeah, that's I'm gonna be for that first part of that back to back. I would imagine Vasi starts against Bobrovsky down in Florida, and that's the other thing. What's this mystery injury to JJ to JoJo? We still don't know. We saw Tompkins was reassigned today. Um, So does that mean JoJo's coming back? You know, who's going to be this backup coming up?
It's a good question. Will Halverson play?
Yeah, if this isn't fixed with JoJo, I gotta imagine Halverson plays against Columbus, and Vasi gets to start down in Florida.
Yeah. Did they say lower body injury or upper with?
Lower.
That's not good.
No, yeah. See, JJ tore his groin. He told us at Ladies Lightning U.
Yeah. So that can take a while to get back from. So I think we're going to see backup goal. Well, that makes a hole in the lineup too for a potential trade.
Yeah,
Do they want
but
to?
I think she's talking about Moser because he was at
Oh,
Lightning's
Moser.
Lady U.
Oh, there's too many JJ's on this team.
Yeah, it was Atkinson and Moser was the at Lightning Ladies U. If you went Monday, you got to see them. Yep, Moser, she said.
I,
So,
I figured that was Moser's injury because he had that kind of awkward fall,
mhm.
that play where he kind of turned around. But he's back now. Yeah, these players in their groins, man.
Yeah, how dare them?
Yeah. Where's the trainer?
Send someone like Kim out there to uh, rub it for them. They sent Tompkins back to Syracuse. Yeah, but they still had Gowanson or what is it, Harvardson. They still had him here, so I don't know. I never saw them reassign him, so I'm wondering if who's going to be back up tomorrow. We'll see.
That's a good question. I bet Vasi starts though.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this sucker up. 4 games between now and next Wednesday. Stay tuned. We'll have a time for you, hopefully by this weekend, for next Wednesday's show with a Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, once with the Colorado Avalanche. And that is our guy. He's been on the show before, actually, Chris Dingman. I don't think you weren't there when he was on the show, were you?
yes,
We were at District Tavern. You were? I don't have
yes.
no memory of you there.
It was
That's
that
what
bar crawl.
happens. That's what happens when you do a podcast in the middle of a bar crawl.
Yeah.
And if you do know any restaurants or anyone that would like us to potentially do a live broadcast from their location, let us know. I'd like to try it somewhere else and see if we can recreate that magic elsewhere. If not, I like hanging out at Dignitary. It's a cool little chill spot to hang out, but a little tight on parking. If we try to get a big crowd there, it might be a little bit of a challenge. Plus, there's no food. More of a chill spot. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be back next week. I'm debating. I've got an excellent shooter game, and we haven't had too many this season, Thomas. So I really want you to mentally prepare yourself this next week because I don't know if I'm going to do it yet, but I might put you versus Dinger in this game.
Oh, great.
You should have the advantage in the game, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I'm debating. Maybe we'll save it for Hockey Collective. How big of is Hockey Collective a big Lightning fan, or is it just hockey in general?
I think she's Lightning.
Maybe I'll save it for her. But I got a doozy. I have a doozy. Okay. All right. Enough anticipation about what's going to be a fun March, and then before we know it, we'll be in the playoffs. You got anything else for the kind folks out there? Thanks for sticking around, Serena and Stephanie, the two queens of the chat tonight.
Yeah, no, it's short show, but we're finally getting back into it after this Four Nations, and it was my fault that we were on late tonight because I was going to the block party. Thanks to Serena, who just reminded me yesterday and said, "You are coming, right?" Sure am. Oh crap. There's only going to be one more live taping of the block party, and that is going to be sometime next month. Not sure when tickets go on sale, so watch Thunderbolts. Greg Wolf always puts it out in Thunderbolts, and says when that live taping is going to be. So check out Thunderbolts.
Better not be the 19th. Actually, we'll see. Maybe we'll see. Maybe I'll take off a week, and we'll both go to the live to the best Tampa Bay Lightning podcast.
Today they did a little Q&A. You always say how I never want to say goodbye, but they did. Jay Retcher, who was the new pre-host of the block party, did a little Q&A with Greg Wolf and Brandon Coburn, and asked about the history of block party and how they ended up getting involved. And it was weird hearing, it started with
Kushner.
no, Danny, block party with Jan Girardi. He was by himself at first.
He was?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
And it was a name that flew right off the tongue. It was Block Party Dan Girardi. And then that was only for a little bit of time. And then he realized that he might have been asking too much. And then they brought in Seth Kushner. And then Coburn ended up going to the Lightning and saying, "I'm retired. I just did a whole bunch of house cleaning and laundry and stuff at home. I need to get out and do something." So he asked if there was anything he could do, and they asked Seth Kushner if he was willing to take on a partner. And then, so Coburn did a little bit of it. Then COVID hit, and everything was virtual then. Remember he did Stamkos from the bubble in the hotel room, on the block party, and then Seth got the job offer in LA. That was supposed to be his huge break, and
Didn't he move back like a week later?
That was 4 jobs ago, yeah. And so they named Greg Wolf and Coburn as the co-host, and yeah, and they're so good together. And they talked about how much they're so now like Greg said, he's like a fan asking the questions. He's like one of us. And Coburn, who knows the inside of things, is the one asking those because he has that history of being a player and knows what it's like to think that way. So they're good. And he said they're so a team now that they both showed up to the Blake Coleman interview wearing the same exact outfit today.
Oh, that's fun.
They both had white quarter zips on with blue hats, and they said this is like the second or third time.
I'd
So,
say the way that you kind of described it, I'm definitely the Coburn of this show. You would have to be the wolf with my
that's true. I would say yeah because you played the game. I'm too fat, would never be able to play that game. Um, Although after being in that Caesar Man suit 3 different times today, I think I've lost probably 20 to 30 pounds.
just need to put some skates on it.
Yeah, and then watch me like a baby giraffe.
Yeah. I did see an interesting tweet today from our guy Andrew Weiss, who was on the show earlier this season, the meme master. He's kind of ragging on the Lightning's social media this year. Have you noticed a major drop off?
Yeah, they have not been so interactive with their fans this year. It has not been.
It's not as fun, right? They just kind of post stats and the pictures and although they still do some of the video, everything that they do on video is pretty good. Whether they
Yeah,
make a
but I
video or
think
they
those videos are more Lightning Vision and
yeah.
that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if it's really the social media team.
Like where's the
Uh,
witty tweets for when we beat McDavid,
right. Like you see these other teams, they're like, it's always great to play in Tampa and get a win or something like that. We don't.
We
Sorry,
don't have any more fun. No more fun tweets.
I'm just looking. There's a trade just came in, but it's nobody and a nobody.
All right, well,
Two
we're gonna
months.
have plenty of trades to talk about the next 2 weeks. So we are back until the end of the season, every Wednesday night. So we'll be here. And then remember, we still got a couple months, but remember, during the playoffs, we go live after every game, whether we're at Amalie Arena for that game and outside afterwards, or home, or maybe we'll do some remote shows again, like we've done in the past for some of these episodes. We got the traveling food dude and his little dog too in the chat. What's going on, man? Can't wait for Dinger. Me too. I'm very excited to get him back on. All right, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up this week. If you can, get out there to the game tomorrow. If you don't have tickets, SeatGeek, use our code WTTPod. Get yourself $10 off. No, not $10 off, $20 off your first time using SeatGeek. It'll be a great game tomorrow. The atmosphere and the buzz yesterday. Did you go to yesterday's game?
I did not.
It was a good crowd for a Tuesday night. It was everyone was in a good mood. Like everyone was talking. Like it was a loud crowd. Even when it was just like they're just playing, it's supposed to be somewhat quiet. Like there was just a loud buzz because everyone was talking so much. But yeah, it was a pretty hype crowd last night. So maybe I just hadn't been to enough games so far this month with this little break. But it was a good time. All right. Well, we will catch you next week. You got anything else, Mr. Schooley? I know you usually have like a end of show list.
No, I'm actually apparently they're doing paint the ice for season ticket members, and I am looking for my email about that because I want to paint the ice, and I did not get that email.
Check your spam filters.
That's what I'm doing.
All right, make sure you follow at We the Thunder Pod so you know exactly what time we start next week. Until then, this has been We the Thunder. Don't forget to be the Thunder.